Have you ever found yourself thinking, I would love to learn English, but I just don't have time for it? Or maybe you've tried for months, but can never stick to a regular study plan. If you're in this boat, don't worry, you're not alone. The good news is that learning English doesn't have to be a difficult and tiring task. I know, it seems too good to be true, but I'll tell you a secret. It's possible to learn English without all that traditional effort. And best of all, without having to open a book or sit for hours in front of the computer. Now, imagine learning English in a light, natural, and even fun way. Does it seem strange? It is not. In fact, that's what I'm going to show you here. You won't need tiring methods or endless classes, because the key to learning English is transforming your everyday activities into learning moments. It may seem too simple to be effective, but you will see how it is possible. I know that many of us, especially busy adults, have a routine full of commitments and responsibilities. Working, studying, taking care of the house, and daily obligations already consume our time and energy, not to mention other personal interests and hobbies. So when it comes to learning a new language, it seems like it's always the last priority. But what if I told you that you could learn English without having to study in the conventional sense? The focus of this video is exactly this: to show you how to learn English without the burden of obligation, without straining your mind, and without adding another task to your to-do list. The secret is to take advantage of small daily opportunities and transform these moments into spontaneous classes. And I promise, you will be surprised by the results. Throughout this video, I will share with you some super practical and easy to apply tips. And the best part, you will have fun while you learn. Let's explore ways to expose yourself to English without feeling like you're studying. Because who doesn't like learning in a relaxed way, right? Don't worry, because the tips I'm going to give you are simple and super accessible. You won't need fancy techniques, just a little consistency and, of course, the desire to have fun in the process. And if you're wondering how this could be possible, keep watching, because soon you'll understand how to change the way you think about learning English. So, if you are ready to learn English in a different way, without that burden and without that frustration that demotivates us so much, I invite you to continue following along. Let's go. Have you ever tried to learn English using traditional methods? Those study plans that involve books, endless classes, and hours of vocabulary memorization. I know what it's like. You start with all that energy, buy the books, download the apps, get it into your head that you are going to study every day. But soon you realize that you are becoming tired, unmotivated, and even frustrated. And the worst part, it seems like you never leave the place. The point is that most conventional language learning methods require one thing that with today's routine is truly mission impossible: time and focus. And who has that left, right? Life is busy, and as much as we want to learn, time simply doesn't help. What ends up happening? You try to study, dedicate yourself for a few days, but soon get discouraged because you can't keep up the pace. The stress of fitting yet another task into your schedule ends up taking over. And let's not even talk about when you start to feel guilty about not studying enough. I've seen many people become unmotivated because they can't follow the schedule they created for themselves. I didn't study today. I'll never be able to learn English. This thought only increases frustration and the feeling that learning is an impossible task. And what do we do when we feel this way? Normally, we give up or leave English aside until the moment when the stress of not learning begins to take its toll again. The problem is that this cycle never ends, and learning continues to get further and further away. So, what I want you to realize is that this method of studying English with strenuous effort and dedication is not the only way to learn. It may even be effective for some people, but, honestly, most of us don't have the availability and energy to follow this type of plan. The good news is that there is a better, lighter, and more natural way to learn. And that's exactly what I'm going to show you. You don't need to spend hours a day in front of books or force yourself to study for long periods. The secret is to create small, easy daily habits that fit perfectly into your routine. And by doing this, you will learn English without even realizing it, in a fun and relaxed way. In this video, you will see how you can transform these frustrations into something positive and even pleasurable. Let's do this together. Now that we've discussed the challenges of learning English with traditional methods, let's talk about the real solution: learning English naturally, without the burden of formal study. Yes, you can learn English in a fun way and without conscious effort, just by incorporating the language into your daily life. The idea is quite simple. You will expose yourself to English in a way that doesn't feel like a chore or a job to be done. No sitting for hours studying grammar or forcing yourself to memorize words. The key is to make language learning a natural and fun part of your everyday life. This can be done without even realizing that you are studying. Imagine for a moment, you already spend a lot of your time consuming content, right? Whether watching videos, listening to music, or even playing games. What if I told you that, by doing these activities, you can learn English almost effortlessly, enjoying every moment? Yes, that's exactly what we're going to explore. The concept of passive immersion is what will change everything for you. Instead of sitting down to study formally, you will simply expose yourself to the language constantly, in a fun way, without the pressure of being perfect. When watching a series, listening to a song, or playing a game, you will be absorbing English naturally. Over time, your brain will begin to understand structures and words, without you needing to focus 100% on it. The big secret here is consistency. You don't need hours and hours of studying. Instead, what you need is small, daily doses of English. This can be done while you perform other tasks, whether at work, at college, or even while on public transport. The goal is to make English a constant part of your day, without it being a burden or an obligation. Imagine, for example, that you are watching your favorite series. Now, instead of watching in Portuguese or with subtitles in Portuguese, you decide to put subtitles in English. Suddenly, you start to associate the words with the images and the context of the story. It's not forced. You are having fun, and at the same time, absorbing the language. The magic happens when you start to realize that, from being exposed to the language so much, your brain starts to internalize the patterns and vocabulary. This approach not only facilitates learning, but also makes the process easier and, most importantly, more lasting. Because, unlike forcing your brain to memorize, you are learning naturally, without even realizing it. Learning becomes a fun experience, and that makes all the difference. So, if you want to learn English in a more fluid and pressure-free way, the answer is simple: create daily habits of exposure to the language. It doesn't matter if you only have 10 or 15 minutes a day to dedicate to English. The important thing is consistency. Over time, you will realize that, without conscious effort, your English will improve organically, and without you having to force yourself. But how exactly can you do this? Don't worry, because I'm going to give you some practical and easy-to-follow tips that will transform the way you learn English. If you're not already taking advantage of films and series to learn English, you're missing out on one of the most fun and effective ways to expose yourself to the language. Watching films and series in English can be one of the best ways to improve your understanding of the language, expand your vocabulary, and even improve your pronunciation. And the best part, you don't need to make any extra effort. Just choose something you were already planning to watch and boost your learning. Now, we'll show you how this works. You might think that watching films and series in English is only for those who already have a good level of knowledge of the language, but that's not true. Even those who are just starting out can benefit immensely from this method. The secret is in the subtitles. Here's the first practical tip: use English subtitles. This will help you connect what is being said with the written words. If you don't understand much of the language yet, This will be a great help in understanding the context of words and how they are used in real situations. If you already have some knowledge of English, this will help reinforce your pronunciation and understanding of the vocabulary you already know. Now, you might think, but watching films and series in English will be very difficult. I'll miss out on the fun. I understand your concern. If you are not confident in your level of English, it can be a little challenging at first. But here's the good news. You don't need to understand every word. The secret is to understand the context. And this is where subtitles come in to help, because when viewing a scene and reading what is being said, the brain begins to associate the words with what is happening on the screen. Over time, you will start to understand more and more, without having to read the subtitles all the time. Furthermore, films and series have something that textbooks do not offer: authenticity. You will hear English spoken naturally, with different expressions, slang, and accents. There is nothing more enriching than hearing a native speaking in the most common way, without the formality that we often see in English books. And this is essential to improving your fluency. After all, native speakers are the ones who will teach you how to speak English, right? Here are some tips to make this practice even more effective. Choose content you like. The most important thing here is to have fun while learning. Choose series or films that you already like and that capture you. If you're not enjoying the content, it will be difficult to stay focused. If it's something interesting, learning will be natural and effortless. Don't worry about perfection. Don't pressure yourself to understand everything. When you're watching something in English, don't focus on understanding every word. Observe the context, see what is happening, and pick up words and expressions along the way. The important thing is constant exposure to the language. Go back and replay scenes. If you come across an interesting scene and don't understand something, don't hesitate to go back and watch it again. Often, it's just a matter of hearing a word or phrase one more time and the pieces fall into place. Changing the speed, if necessary, adjust the speed of the video so that the audio is clearer, without losing the naturalness of the conversation. Many streaming apps let you slow down or speed up the audio. Now, let's talk about the best series and films for learning English. If you're a beginner, start with simpler content, like cartoons or series aimed at young audiences. Series like Friends, How I Met Your Mother, and The Office are great for beginners and intermediates, as they have simple vocabulary and lots of everyday expressions. If you already have a more advanced level, try more complex films and series, such as Breaking Bad, The Crown, or Sherlock. These films will challenge your comprehension skills and introduce more sophisticated vocabulary. Furthermore, the situations that unfold in these productions will help you learn to express emotions and reactions in a more natural way. And if you still have doubts, know that this method is highly effective. Over time, you will notice that English begins to flow more naturally, and you will find yourself understanding phrases and words that were previously difficult to understand. You will see that, without effort, the language becomes part of your life, and most importantly, you'll be having fun while you learn. Who doesn't like music, right? Now, what if I told you that listening to your favorite songs can be a powerful tool for learning English? That's right. Listening to music and podcasts in English can improve your understanding of the language, enrich your vocabulary, and even improve your pronunciation, all in a light and relaxed way. First, let's talk about the music. Most of us already listen to music all the time, whether in the car, at work, or while exercising. So, why not take advantage of these moments to learn English? When you listen to songs in English, you're not just enjoying the melody, you're also being exposed to new words, idioms, and even different accents and pronunciations. But how does this work, exactly? Well, music has an incredible power to make words stick in our minds. Constantly repeating letters helps you memorize vocabulary almost subconsciously. And because song lyrics often contain everyday expressions, slang, and even regional terms, you begin to understand how English is actually spoken. And the best part, you learn all this while having fun and enjoying the music. Here's a tip: to enjoy the songs even more, sing along. It may seem a little strange at first, but singing helps you improve your pronunciation and memorize words more easily. And if you don't understand what is being sung, look for the lyrics of the song. Then, in addition to enjoying the melody, you will also notice the correlation between the lyrics and the meaning. This singing exercise can even improve your fluency, because it helps you loosen up and use English more naturally. But what if you're not that interested in the songs? No problem. Let's talk now about podcasts. Podcasts are an excellent option for anyone who wants to learn English in a practical and no-obligation way. They offer a huge variety of topics, so you can choose exactly what interests you, be it technology, culture, history, or even fiction stories. The big advantage of podcasts is that they are generally longer than a song, which gives you more exposure to the language. Listening to podcasts helps you train your listening comprehension and get used to different accents and ways of speaking. Additionally, you can listen to podcasts while doing other activities, such as cooking, walking, or even commuting. It's a way to learn while carrying out your daily tasks without having to make extra effort. Here's an important tip: start with shorter podcasts with simpler language. The idea is not to get frustrated with something that is far beyond your level. You can look for podcasts aimed at beginners or English learners, where the vocabulary is more accessible and the conversations are slower and clearer. A great option is the English We Speak podcast, which focuses on everyday expressions and useful vocabulary for everyday life. For a more intermediate level, BBC Learning English offers podcasts that cover a range of topics and are made specifically for English learners. If you already have a more advanced level, you can start listening to podcasts in regular English, like The Tim Ferriss Show or Stuff You Should Know, which have a variety of interesting topics and more complex language. The best part, just like music, podcasts not only help you improve your understanding, but they also expose you to vocabulary that you will actually use in real-life situations. They make you come into contact with English in an organic way, as if it were a conversation with friends or co-workers. Now, if you really want to take a leap in learning, here's an extra tip: write down the words and expressions you don't understand and look for the meaning. Over time, this will help increase your vocabulary and give you more confidence when speaking. And, of course, most importantly, don't worry if you don't understand everything right away. Learning happens with constant exposure to the language. Over time, you will begin to notice that, without even realizing it, your English will improve significantly, and you will feel more comfortable speaking and understanding the language. So, next time you're listening to your music or podcasts, remember, you're learning English, and you don't even need to study for it. Who said video games can't be educational? If you're a fan of games, you're about to discover an amazing way to learn English while having fun. It doesn't matter if you're a gamer or not. Video games can become a powerful tool for your English learning. And if you're not a big fan of games, then maybe it's time to start exploring this world. Because learning English by playing games is one of the most engaging and effective ways to acquire fluency. First, let's talk about video games. If you play games, you've probably noticed that many games require you to read and understand instructions, dialogue, and text in English. And believe me, this isn't just a part of the game. This is learning in action. When you play in English, you are being exposed to the language in a fun and immersive way. Often, the characters' dialogues in the game are full of everyday expressions, slang, and common terms, which will help you understand how English is really spoken. Adventure and RPG games, for example, offer excellent content for learning English. When you're playing, you read characters' lines and often interact with other players in English. If you're playing something online, like Fortnite or League of Legends, you can communicate directly with people from all over the world, putting your English into practice in real time. And best of all, you won't even realize you're learning. The fact that you are immersed in the game and have to understand the story and interactions to advance is an organic way to learn the language. As you get more involved with the game, you will naturally get used to the vocabulary and grammatical structures without forcing anything. Repetition of the same terms and phrases, as well as being completely immersed in the context, will make you learn English effortlessly. Now, if video games aren't your thing, another excellent alternative are language apps. Many of these apps offer a fun, interactive way to learn English, with short, practical lessons you can do anywhere. They offer a gamified experience, where you advance through levels as you learn more words and grammatical structures. In other words, when using a language app, you can feel like you are playing a game, but with the focus on learning English. There are several very good apps on the market that help you learn English in a fun and engaging way. One of the most popular is Duolingo, which offers quick, interactive lessons while challenging you with scores and rewards. Another excellent app is Babbel, which focuses on real dialogues and everyday situations, making learning more applicable to real life. These apps work as a kind of daily training, where you do small lessons, and each day you can see your progress. They are great because they fit perfectly into the hectic routine of those who don't have much time. You can use your cell phone while waiting at the doctor's office, while on public transportation, or even while drinking coffee. Here are some tips for making the most of language apps and video games. Choose games that have dialogue and interactions in English. Avoid those that don't require reading or understanding language. Adventure and strategy games, like The Witcher or Skyrim, are perfect for this, as they require you to read and understand what is happening in the game. Practice with other players. If the game is online, interact with other players. Communication is often done in English, and you will have the chance to practice in the real world. Use apps during brief, free moments. Take advantage of breaks from work, studies, or other activities to do a quick lesson on Duolingo or memorize. Don't worry about being perfect. Learning by playing is fun, so don't put pressure on yourself to get everything right. The important thing is to keep playing and exposing yourself to the language. Challenge yourself to understand more every day. As you get used to the vocabulary in the games or the lessons in the apps, try expanding the difficulty level. In the case of games, choose titles that offer more challenges and more advanced vocabulary. In apps, increase the difficulty of lessons to expand your learning. And, as always, fun is the key. The more fun the process is, the easier it will be to learn. Using video games and language apps, you will learn English without even realizing you are studying, which makes learning much more effective and enjoyable. You probably already spend a good part of your day browsing social media, right? Whether it's Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, or Reddit, social media is becoming a huge part of our everyday lives. But what if I told you that these platforms can be more than just for distraction? They can be a valuable tool for learning English and improving your fluency naturally, without any extra effort. Social networks and forums are great for learning English, as they offer constant exposure to the language in real-life situations. This means that you will learn English as it is spoken in everyday life, slang, idiomatic expressions, and even those abbreviations that we use to chat quickly. And best of all, you will engage in real conversations, which will make your learning much more relevant and applicable. But how exactly can you use social media and forums to learn English? Here are some practical tips to get started. Follow profiles and pages that post in English. Start by following pages, profiles and accounts of influencers who speak in English. It can be anything that interests you: fashion, sports, films, travel, or even educational profiles aimed at teaching English. By following these pages, you will be exposed to English content regularly, and this will help you improve your vocabulary organically. Comment and interact on posts. Don't limit yourself to just reading what others are posting. Start commenting in English. Even if your answers are simple, engaging with other users will help you practice writing and communicating spontaneously. What's more, you'll see how other people use the language, and you'll learn a lot from it. Join discussion groups and forums. Platforms like Reddit, Facebook groups, and Quora are great places to interact with native English speakers. Join groups on topics that interest you, and start participating in conversations. Discussions are a great place to learn more informal, conversational vocabulary, and are a great way to practice listening and reading comprehension. Ask questions and seek answers. Don't be afraid to ask questions in English. If you don't know how to say something or are unsure about an expression, ask others. Many people are willing to help, and by doing so, you will learn more quickly. If you already have a little confidence in writing, you can start answering questions too, which will help your learning even more. Learn everyday expressions and slang. Social media is a great place to learn how people really talk in everyday life. You will see how natives express themselves, what slang they use, and how they speak in a relaxed way. These expressions are super important for anyone who wants to achieve fluency, as they are much more used in real situations than the formal English in textbooks. Use language exchange apps. In addition to traditional social networks, there are several language exchange apps, such as Tandem or HelloTalk, where you can chat with native English speakers and teach them your language in return. These apps are an incredible way to practice speaking in real time without leaving home. The beauty of using social media and forums to learn English is that the process becomes super informal and relaxed. You'll be learning while connecting with others and participating in everyday conversations. This makes English a part of your everyday life, without you feeling like you are studying. And as you interact with more people, your confidence in using the language will grow. And don't worry if you make a few mistakes along the way. That's part of the learning. The most important thing is to practice and expose yourself to the language in the most natural way possible. The more you use English in real situations, the easier it will be for you to communicate. So, the next time you log into social media, don't just think about scrolling through your feed. Take advantage of the moment to interact, learn new words and expressions, and even improve your writing in English. The simple act of engaging on platforms in English will accelerate your learning incredibly. If there's one thing that really makes a difference when learning English, or any other skill, really, it's consistency. There is no point in studying hard for a day or two and then abandoning it for weeks. The secret is in small, daily doses. And you know what's even better? You can include English in your routine without needing much time or effort, just by adjusting some simple habits in your daily life. Think about the following. How much time do you spend daily on things that could be done in English? Maybe you read the news in the morning, use your cell phone while you drink coffee, or listen to music while you go to work. These moments that are already part of your routine can be transformed into learning opportunities. And the best, without having to stop what you're doing or add more tasks to your day. The key here is to turn English into something that is part of your everyday life. This means that you won't need to sit down to study, but will be constantly exposed to the language in simple and practical ways. Here are some ideas to help you create this daily routine of exposure to English. Read something in English every day. It could be news, an article, or even the subtitles of a video you are watching. If you like sports, read about your favorite team on international websites. Do you like fashion? Read blogs or magazines in English. The idea is to choose something that really interests you, so that the habit of reading in English is enjoyable and doesn't feel like an obligation. Set your phone and other devices to English. This is a simple but powerful change. When using your cell phone, computer, or tablet in English, you will be constantly in contact with the language. You will learn words and expressions related to technology naturally, just by using the devices on a daily basis. Create time to think in English. This may seem strange at first, but it works really well. During the day, Take a few minutes to mentally describe your surroundings in English. For example, if you are going to work, try thinking, I'm on the bus, it's a sunny day, and I'm listening to music. This simple exercise helps you practice forming sentences and thinking directly in the language. Follow content in English on social media. As we mentioned in the previous chapter, following profiles and pages in English can be a great way to expose yourself to the language. Make this part of your daily routine. When scrolling your feed, read posts and comments in English and interact with the content. Use learning apps daily. Dedicate just 10 minutes of your day to use apps like Duolingo, Memrise, or Babbel. They are designed to fit into your routine and offer quick, practical learning. Listen to English during routine activities, whether while washing the dishes, exercising, or driving. Listen to podcasts or music in English. You can start with something simpler and gradually increase the difficulty as your understanding improves. The important thing is to be in contact with the language constantly. Set small daily goals. It doesn't have to be complicated. It can be as simple as learning 3 new words a day, watching a short video in English, or writing a sentence in the language. What matters is creating a consistent habit, even if in small doses. The secret to making this routine work is to make it natural and adapted to your reality. Don't try to fit in activities that don't make sense to you or that seem forced. Instead, look for opportunities within the things you already do on a daily basis. If you like cooking, look for recipes in English. If you like watching videos on YouTube, follow English-speaking channels. Small changes like these make a huge difference in the long run. Also, remember that consistency is more important than the intensity. Even if you only dedicate 10 or 15 minutes a day to English, doing this every day will bring much better results than studying for hours only once a week. It's like planting a seed. Drizzle a little every day, and over time it will grow and flourish. Finally, be patient with yourself. Learning a language is a gradual process, and each step counts. Even if you feel that you are moving slowly, the important thing is to continue. With a daily English exposure routine, you will realize that gradually language is starting to be part of your life, and its fluency is developing naturally. Nothing is more motivating than listening to real stories of people who have managed to achieve their goals. When we talk about learning English in a light, practical, and fun way, there are many inspiring cases that show how this is possible. In this chapter, I will share some of these stories to further encourage you to follow this way. The story of Lucas, the gamer who learned English playing. Lucas has always been in love with video games. He spent hours playing RPGs, but one thing bothered him. Many of the games he loved were available only in English. At first he felt frustrated because he didn't understand much of what was happening, but instead of giving up, Lucas decided to face it as a challenge. He began to pay attention to the words that appeared on the screen, looking for the dictionary who did not understand, and even noted some interesting expressions. Over time, Lucas realized that he was learning much more than he expected. His vocabulary grew. He began to better understand the speeches of the characters and, without realizing it, began to think of English while playing. Today, Lucas not only can play any game without difficulty, but also greatly improved his pronunciation and hearing understanding. For him, learning came naturally and fun while doing something he loved. Carla, the fan of series that became fluent. Carla loved to watch the series, but always watched with Portuguese subtitles. One day, he decided to try something different, watch with English subtitles. At first it was difficult. She constantly paused to understand a few words, but gradually she began to take the rhythm. After a few weeks, Carla realized she was understanding more than she expected. She began to recognize standards, learned new expressions, and even tried to imitate the characters to practice pronunciation. Today, Carla watches series without subtitles and says that this practice has completely changed her way of learning English. In addition to improving her auditory understanding, she has gained confidence to communicate on trips and even meetings at work. Jonah, the busy mother who used small moments to learn. Jonah always wanted to learn English, but her routine was extremely busy. Between taking care of her children, working, and managing the house, she felt she didn't have time to sit and study. It was then that he decided to incorporate English into small moments of the day. During breakfast, I watched short videos in English. While driving, he heard podcasts about motherhood. And at night, I read simple English stories for your children. Even without a formal study plan, Jonah began to realize that she was gradually learning. Today, she can communicate in English with confidence, all thanks to these small changes in her routine. The young professional who learned on social networks was addicted to social networks, but had never thought of using them to learn English. One day, when rolling the Instagram feed, he came across a page that posted English tips in a light and fun way. He started following other pages of the same type and even participated in groups on Facebook where people were talking only in English. In addition, began to comment in English in the posts he saw. At first he made many mistakes, but realized that no one judged him and, in fact, many people helped him. This daily practice helped him improve his writing and gain confidence to express himself. Let's move on with the next chapter, where we will address success stories and inspiring testimonials. This chapter is crucial to motivating the public and showing how these strategies work in practice. Let's go. 9. Stories of success and testimonials. Nothing is more motivating than listening to real stories of people who have managed to achieve their goals. When we talk about learning English in a light, practical, and fun way, there are many inspiring cases that show how this is possible. In this chapter, I will share some of these stories to further encourage you to follow this way. The story of Lucas. The gamer who learned English playing. Lucas has always been in love with video games. He spent hours playing RPGs, but one thing bothered him. Many of the games he loved were available only in English. At first he felt frustrated because he didn't understand much of what was happening. But instead of giving up, Lucas decided to face it as a challenge. He began to pay attention to the words that appeared on the screen, looking for the dictionary who did not understand, and even noted some interesting expressions. Over time, Lucas realized that he was learning much more than he expected. His vocabulary grew. He began to better understand the speeches of the characters and, without realizing it, began to think of English while playing. Today, Lucas not only can play any game without difficulty, but also greatly improved his pronunciation and hearing understanding. For him, learning came naturally and fun while doing something he loved. Carla, the fan of series that became fluent. Carla loved to watch the series, but always watched with Portuguese subtitles. One day, he decided to try something different, watch with English subtitles. At first it was difficult. She constantly paused to understand a few words, but gradually she began to take the rhythm. After a few weeks, Carla realized she was understanding more than she expected. She began to recognize standards, learned new expressions, and even tried to imitate the characters to practice pronunciation. Today, Carla watches series without subtitles and says that this practice has completely changed her way of learning English. In addition to improving her auditory understanding, she has gained confidence to communicate on trips and even meetings at work. Jonah, the busy mother who used small moments to learn. Jonah always wanted to learn English, but her routine was extremely busy. Between taking care of her children, working, and managing the house, she felt she didn't have time to sit and study. It was then that he decided to incorporate English into small moments of the day. During breakfast, I watched short videos in English. While driving, he heard podcasts about motherhood. And at night, I read simple English stories for your children. Even without a formal study plan, Jonah began to realize that she was gradually learning. Today, she can communicate in English with confidence, all thanks to these small changes in her routine. The young professional who learned on social networks was addicted to social networks, but had never thought of using them to learn English. One day, when rolling the Instagram feed, he came across a page that posted English tips in a light and fun way. He started following other pages of the same type and even participated in groups on Facebook where people were talking only in English. In addition, began to comment in English in the posts he saw. At first he made many mistakes, but realized that no one judged him and, in fact, many people helped him. This daily practice helped him improve his writing and gain confidence to express himself. These stories are proof that learning English does not have to be formal or tiring. Lucas, Carla, Jonah, and found ways to incorporate the language into their routines naturally and, above all, fun. Most importantly, finding the method that works best for you based on your interests and lifestyle. Upon hearing these stories, I hope you feel motivated to start your own journey. It doesn't matter if you're playing, watching the series, interacting on social networks, or listening to podcasts. Every small English exposure, and over time, these small changes will add up and completely transform your learning. So why not start today? Choose one of the tips that fits your daily life and start trying. Maybe soon you will also have your own success story to share. We have reached the end of this guide, but this is not the conclusion of your journey. On the contrary, it's just the beginning. Throughout this video, we explore how learning English does not need to be a heavy or demotivating task. In fact, you can turn learning into something light, natural, and even fun, incorporating the language into your routine in simple and effective ways. Recapitulating, we talk about the challenges of traditional methods and how lack of time and motivation can disturb. Then we present 5 practical strategies that you can apply immediately. Watching movies and series in English, listening to music and podcasts, playing video games or using language applications, interacting on social networks, and creating a daily English exposure routine. Each of these tips has been designed to fit your daily life, making learning something accessible and constant. Now, let's take a break to reflect. What can you start to implement today? Maybe it's as simple as changing your phone's language, watching an episode of your favorite English subtitles, or listening to a podcast while going to work. The most important thing is to take the first step, because, as we saw in the inspiring stories of the previous chapter, each small action counts. And here is something you need to remember. Learning English is a process, not a destination. Do not cover yourself because it is perfect or advanced quickly. Progress can be slow at first, but it always happens when you constantly expose yourself to language. Every word you learn, every phrase you understand, and every conversation you can have is a victory. Celebrate these achievements, because they are proof that you are on the right track. Also, remember to have fun during the process. When learning is pleasant, it becomes more effective. Learning English should not be a burden. It must be something that brings joy, satisfaction, and the feeling that you are expanding your horizons. And there is nothing more rewarding than realizing that gradually you are reaching a fluency that once seemed distant. Now, before we end, I want to make you an invitation. Share your journey with us. In the comments, tell you what tips you are already using or which you want to implement. If you know someone who is also looking for ways to learn English, send this video to this person. After all, learning is even more fun when we can share the experience with other people. And of course, don't forget to enjoy this video. Subscribe to the channel and activate notifications so as not to lose any content. Here, we are always sharing practical and motivating tips to help you achieve your goals. And learning English is just the beginning. So what are you waiting for? Start today to turn small moments of your day into opportunities to learn English. You are closer than you think of achieving the fluency you want so much. And remember, every step, however small, takes you closer to that goal. See you in the next video. Until then, good luck and good studies. Or, as you can say now, good luck and happy learning.